Welcome to the Portrait Room. Before entering the exciting world of invention and technology, Porter was a prolific portrait painter and a muralist. Notably, Porter was an itinerant painter, traveling far and wide in search of employment. The Charles and Judith G.T. Vogler Portrait Room displays Porter's style of painting in contrast to portraits of people who possessed higher socioeconomic status. Porter did not work on large-scale portraits, but rather created paintings for those who preferred something quick and affordable. One of the devices he manipulated to make the process even faster was the camera obscura, which will be discussed in more detail later. Though these silhouettes were not created by Rufus Porter, they resemble the kind of simple portrait he made for his customers. Silhouettes were first made during the 18th century when people wanted to show that they had a good profile. Silhouettes were often created with the cutout method, where the profile of a person was traced on dark paper and then cut out. This cutout would then be glued to a light-colored piece of paper. Porter, however, used the hollow cut method. He would trace a person's profile on a light piece of paper, cut out the profile, and use the remaining piece with the hole. This piece would then be glued to a dark piece of paper to create the same effect. More expensive silhouettes were created by painting directly on glass with gold embellishments. To highlight the contrast in painting styles to Porter's, we also display paintings wealthier people would have commissioned. This painting, likely of an English gentleman from the 17th century, has an unknown origin, but helps emphasize the wide range of portrait types that people could commission. Painting a portrait like this would have taken much more time and effort than one of Porter's portraits. Even more telling is this portrait of the Farnsworth family of Bridgeton by George Washington Appleton, as it is from the same era as the more simplistic silhouettes. It displays detailed likeness of Nancy Musey Farnsworth, Samuel Farnsworth, who was a doctor, and their 4 children. Porter is very unlikely to have ever done a portrait on such a large scale as this. Porter's most well-known small-scale artwork involves his execution of miniature watercolor portraits. Painting them mostly between 1820 and 1830, approximately 120 have been attributed to him, and approximately 85 of the subjects have been identified. Before we see the portraits in our collection, let's take a look at this family register. It was created by Porter around 1820. Genealogy was very important to families in the Victorian era. Porter designed and painted family registers as another way of generating income. This register is in its original grain-painted frame. Grain painting is the art of painting non-wood with a wood grain or painting inexpensive wood with the grain pattern of a more expensive wood. Rufus Porter was very skilled at this. This family register is an important example of Porter's work. The museum currently has in its collection 7 miniature watercolor portraits attributed to Porter. Porter's style of portrait is highly distinctive and can be distinguished by certain attributes such as straight eyelashes, a football-shaped iris, a heart-shaped lower ear, and a brown line on the mouth, as can be seen in close-ups of these miniatures and the original miniatures displayed here. Next to Porter's family register are 2 portraits, one of Mary Ann Burroughs Hills, who was born in 1799, and Paul Hills, who was born in 1789. They were painted between 1823 and 1825. Below the Hills is a portrait made by Porter in 1815 depicting Betsy Long Ellis, who was born in 1896 in Middleborough, Massachusetts. Other portraits include Nathan Peabody Ames, who founded a manufacturing company that made artillery. A portrait of a young lady in a ruffled white dress that was painted around 1830. A portrait of another unknown woman that has been attributed to Porter, and a portrait of Mary Gorham Irish. Though some of these are not signed, as Porter rarely signed his work, they possess the very distinctive style of Porter's portraits.